is Dr. Esther Trufan, and in this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to separate our 2-ingredient mixture that contains salt and sand. For this separation, we first are going to need our mixture. In this beaker, we have 5 grams of salt and 5 grams of sand combined. We're also going to need some deionized water because salt dissolves in water and sand doesn't. To separate the salt from the sand, we're going to use the technique called filtration, and today it will be gravity filtration. For this procedure, we're going to need to set up our station. First, we're going to use some water, so we'll measure it out using a graduated cylinder. For the filtration, we're going to need a funnel, and the funnel will be suspended through an O-ring on a stand. Here is my O-ring. It should be sufficiently large to hold our funnel, but not too large so that the funnel falls through. So we're going to slide the O-ring in position. And place the funnel into it. Then whatever filtrate goes through, it needs to be captured. And in our case, it will be captured in a beaker. Now, the position of the beaker is really important. It has to be under the funnel, but not this close to it. So we have to lift up our O-ring so that the tip of our funnel is just below the rim of our beaker. This is about the right height. To get our filtration started, we will also need some filter paper. And so now we are ready to start. Our filtration setup will have to wait because first we need to dissolve the salt from our mixture. So to do that, I'm going to use a 10 milliliter graduated cylinder and pour into it approximately 10 milliliters of deionized water. Once poured, we should record the volume, although this is not an essential measurement for this process. The volume here is 10.00 milliliters. I will transfer it onto my mixture. And because I don't want to accidentally remove any traces of salt or sand, I'm not going to use any kind of stirring device. Instead, I'm going to mix it by swirling. And by having patience until all the salt dissolves. If given sufficient time, it does not. We can always add more water, but it is important that we keep the amount of water that we add relatively small. It looks like the majority of the salt dissolved, but just to be on the safe side, it is best to add another 5 milliliters of water and swirl it again. Once we remove all the bubbles, I have 5.22 milliliters of water here, and I will transfer it over. And now we prepare for our filtration. We extract a large filter paper. Then we fold it in half. And we create a crease. Then we fold it in half again. And we create a second crease. And then we open it up, not in the middle, but in one of the corners. And if we do that, then we will have a cone shape. And on one side of the cone, we have 1 layer of filter paper, and on the other one, we have 3. This is what it needs to look like. Then we take our filter paper that is now looking like a cone, and we transfer it onto our funnel. If we let it go, it will jump out. So to convince it to stay in place, we can add either a couple drops of our saltwater solution or a couple drops of our water. Because I don't want to add more water than I need to, I will use a little bit of my saltwater solution. And it is best to pour it on the side of the filter paper, because that way we're not putting too much pressure on that tiny hole that's on the bottom of the funnel. Once it starts getting wet, it starts to stick to the funnel and it will stay in place for us. And now I can let it go. Next is the transfer of our mixture. Now we have a saltwater solution and we have sand that is suspended in it. And every time I stop swirling, what happens is the sand settles to the bottom. So the key to efficient transfer is going to be swirling it really fast and then transferring it really fast without stopping in the middle. Because I am right-handed, it makes more sense for me to turn this around. If you're left-handed, you're probably better off in the other position. Swirl it vigorously and then transfer it quickly. This way, the majority of my sand is fully transferred. I still have some sand left over, so I need to convince it to go through, and I can't do it without additional liquid. So I will add small amounts of deionized water. Should you want to measure it out, I recommend it to be between 2 and 5 milliliters, trying not to exceed that 5 milliliter mark. Small amounts, and every time we add this small amount, we want to swirl vigorously so that all the sand particles that are sticking to the walls of the beaker get picked up and the swirling action starts moving them. When we picked up as much of the sand as we possibly can, we do a quick transfer again. And now it looks a little better than it did before, but it's always a good idea to repeat the swirling and rinsing at least 2 or 3 times. So we'll do it at least 1 more. Again, no more than 2 to 5 milliliters of water should be used here. Once we are satisfied, we very quickly transfer it through. And there may be a couple straggling sand particles, but at some point we will have to take our losses. We can't always transfer every particle. So we take note of this, and if we don't get 100% of our sand back, we can assign this transfer process to be one of the steps responsible for that loss. Once we're done with the transfer and inside the funnel, everything went through, we're still not done yet because we were using salt water to filter through. And that means we have soaked our filter paper with salt water. It is important that we do some rinses to make sure that the salt is fully rinsed through. And again, we add small increments of water. Just like before, we should keep our additional volumes of water to under 5 milliliters at a time. And just like with any other rinsing process, we need to repeat it at least twice. So when all the liquid is gone from our funnel, just like this, we rinse 1 more time. And when we rinse, it doesn't go to the middle, it goes on the side around the paper. And you can always pick it up and move it around a little bit, as long as you make sure that the bottom of the funnel does not go outside of the beaker. And then you just wait until what's inside the funnel just resembles wet sand, but there is no more liquid involved. Now with our filtration complete inside the funnel, we have wet filter paper with sand on it. And inside the beaker on the bottom, we have our salt dissolved in water. And to recover both of these, the next step is going to be drying and weighing both components. But with this step, we have successfully separated our salt, which is dissolved in the water, from our sand, which is captured on the filter paper.